What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into our daily schedule for NBA tonight, but I thought it'd be just fitting that we cover this WWE like brawl that we had with and it's not the first one. It's now the second different games. I think the Spurs Thunder had one, but this is one that again it makes no sense if you really think about it. Okay, so the Warriors, they're guys that got ejected. The guys that got ejected on both sides. Now, if you think about it, don't give a shit about $500,000. So it begs the question. I brought this up. It was the first play-in video that I did because it was the first one. It was the first in-season tournament game, so you can find whatever game that was. And I went into. I said I'm wondering if we're going to suddenly see these players looking competitive and fighting like they really want to win these games. And sure enough, we just get a complete joke of a game here where it was a WWE match masquerading as a game. I don't know exactly what happened. I know a guy's jersey got tugged. I think it was McDaniels. And at some point, Draymond Green pulled out the irreversible schoolyard headlock to really show Gobert who was boss. So you can see the referee smiling here. Honestly, the thing, in my opinion, the whole thing's scripted. Again, I think the idea is this in-season tournament. They want to pitch as more like the Olympics, more like FIBA. Although you can see the Americans aren't exactly doing well in that regard either. But just in regard as if they had their top guys for FIBA, obviously it'd be a different story. But it's like it reminds me of the Intercontinental Championship in wrestling. You have the flashy belt, the main belt that everybody wants. That's the championship. Now they have this in-season tournament, and for some reason these players are finding just extra motivation. You know, obviously they're friends in real life, but they're getting into these scuffles now. Again, this is the third game, and they've all been the in-season tournament. So again, to me, it just shows how scripted it is, how ridiculously choreographed it is. I don't think for a second these guys were really fighting. And ESPN they're getting so like out of, I don't know if they're out of touch or if they're just being meta about it, but always posting just goofy little quips about these types of things. So I have no doubt this whole thing was staged. I think they're going to continue it, and it will probably play into the regular season and the championship. But this in-season tournament, again, I don't think these guys, and if they are, it just shows again how much it's not a competition. If they're really just now deciding, you know what, I'm willing to risk an assault charge to win this game for $500,000, it just doesn't make any sense. So it begs the question: why are they being so much more competitive in these in-season tournament games? Again, for me, it's simple. It's wrestling logic. They do this stuff in wrestling all the time, and they're just giving two different styles. So this in-season tournament is going to be a completely different style. It's going to be very physical. We're going to see promos. We're going to see all sorts of nonsense. You know, as a wrestling fan, it's not entertaining because if you watch 5 minutes of wrestling, you'll see real entertainment. So I see these fake fights, it's almost cringe at some points because you just know they're make believe wrestlers is what these guys are. That's really what they are. The NBA switched to sports entertainment for a reason, but we'll see what happens with these guys. We did get this one. We had the Warriors cover in this one. Obviously, the whole thing became a crazy mess. But we didn't have any plays for 4 units. We didn't have any leg threes. We had mostly 1 unit plays and 2 unit plays. Didn't have a good day, but as I went into, I think it's just as important, especially because I purposely didn't make any a leg three for 4 units. I just, with the in-season tournament, I'm trying to get a gauge on it. But I think we're starting to get a gauge on it and what they're going to do. So I wanted to go into tonight's games, and I just found that to be highly I would say intriguing. It was funny for a second. It just again, it'd be no different than wrestlers just going out on a football field with flag footballs, and they have inflated footballs, and they're just out there throwing 60-yard passes, like, and then the wrestler on the other team's cutting a promo while the one wrestler scores. It's it's almost a disrespect to the other sport. So like, obviously basketball players, they're not as good at selling, they're not as good at choreographing these things as wrestlers. So when they try and do it, just like when they fake these injuries and then they're fine, I bring up Patrick Mahomes running on his quote sprinted ankle. Trevor Lawrence just did it with a supposed knee injury. He had more rushing yards in that game than in a while. So it just become to me, it's just a very apparently obvious when they have these fake fights. You can go back as long as you want. They just all seem, even the pool Draymond Green one, I don't think, that one we didn't see and we heard about. So when you believe more in a fight that you didn't see, just because of the way the vibes around it, than a quote fight that we actually did see, to me that's all we need to know. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure the four of them that got ejected are all having drinks or were having drinks. But I don't think, that they have any kind of beef with each other. Again, they all have roles. But I don't want to go on that too long. I'm sure people are curious why the heck out of nowhere these guys are deciding to be ultra competitive and, again, just resorting to assault to win a game. Because, when you put somebody in a headlock, you never know what could happen. It was a very weak headlock. But, again, it was like a fourth grader backyard wrestling type of headlock where he just kind of grabbed him and somehow Gobert could not find his way out of it. I think it'd be funny if the Wolves traded for like Steven Adams or something, and then like they tried having Green do something with him. Just again, I wouldn't be surprised if they started doing that kind of stuff because that's kind of where they're headed. But yeah, let's go into the games. Wizards Mavs. So maybe this is a fallacy for me. I'm seeing, and it works out sometimes, but I'm seeing the Mavericks week after week just giving weird lines. And I don't even have to look to probably see that Kyrie's probably not playing, or Luka. But even with that being said, oh no, okay, I guess I was wrong. So with a healthy Kyrie and with a healthy Luka, the Mavs are only giving 5.5 to one of the worst teams in the league right now. To me, that doesn't make much sense. The Wizards have just blown two of the biggest leads of the season. It was like a 27-point lead and a 15-point lead to the Pacers and Bucks, respectively. So, yeah, I don't see it was to the Raptors and Pacers, I believe. They might have blown one to the Bucks, too. I can't quite remember, but this could be a win, no cover, sure. But I don't see why anybody would be on Washington. Dallas has looked very, very strong. I like Washington on the money line to win this game, to be honest. I think they're going to get this win. I don't see anybody taking them. So, money line and spread, I like the Wizards, but I'm going to take them on the money line. Knicks, Hawks, I like the Hawks. I think they're going to kind of go back and forth in their rivalry. And, again, I went into this earlier this year. I think both of these teams are going to be about the same, if not slightly worse than last year. The Knicks, I think they're going to be in a spot where they're around 500, maybe 25, 30 games in, and then they try and make a play for somebody. Who that somebody is, I don't know. Maybe it's Cat. It could be anybody, really. But just another guy that is considered a star. Maybe even Donovan. I don't know if Donovan Mitchell's eligible to be traded. I don't know how that'll... they basically do their trades like 2K anyway. But the Hawks, I think they're just going to have an alright year. Not much is going to change. The Knicks, I do think they're going to be buyers come the trade deadline. So I don't think they're going to have a great record going into the trade deadline. And I think they will be one of the teams that makes a move for a star. So maybe you get DeRozan from the Bulls. It could be a lot of guys, but I like the Hawks here. I think in New York, Trey usually wins in New York, but I think the Knicks won in Atlanta. I think they played once so far. Let's see. Yeah, they won in Atlanta, so we got one more in Atlanta. They could win again, sure, and then let Trey feast in New York, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to the Hawks to win this not the rubber match, but to tie it up for the rubber match. So I like the Hawks in this one. Celtics, Sixers. Normally I'd go Sixers because I said since they got that trade, I thought they were going to do significantly better than people anticipated. Like a lot of people had them dropping out of the playoffs or maybe being a low seed. And they still might be, but I thought I went into how it was like the opposite of the Nets, because the Nets got a bunch of role players and that was it. And now Bridges is being developed into a superstar, but I should say a star. But the Sixers still had Maxey and Embiid, and then Harris fits in. So it's not like they didn't have guys, and they got Pat Bev for defense. So it just, on paper, rigged or I always like to say real or rigged. It just made sense that the Sixers would improve with Batum and getting rid of a lazy player who just doesn't really care to win. So I do think that I would normally again have the Sixers covering this, but they have been looking pretty good, and the Sixers are very good against the spread still. So again, you're not going to have a bunch of teams 70-80% against the spread. So I like the Celtics to cover the spread. And again, I think they do want to establish the Celtics as the team. There's got to be one that can take on the Bucks. And yeah, there's a few with a better record right now, but nobody has the Pacers or the Sixers or any of these teams, the Hawks, who are also 6-4, on the same level as the Bucks. But the Celtics are. So if they look, they look really strong on a lot of their primetime games, then I think Bucks Celtics obviously is going to be a bigger draw down the road. So I'll take the Celtics on the cover. And Bucks Raptors, this one I'm taking the Raptors money line, and if you watch my videos and you follow the spreads, then you might be wondering why I'm not loving the Bucks to cover. And I went into this a few videos ago. The Bucks are terrible against the spread. I think they're 1-9, and they're either 1-9 or 1-8-1. Now, normally, of course, I would fade that. Well, I would take the Bucks, but ESPN went out of their way, and there's other teams. There's teams that are 9-1 against the spread. I mean, the fact that the Pacers and Spurs are, or I'm sorry, the Spurs aren't. It's the Pacers and somebody else. They were, and then they started losing a few. But when you had these teams, the Blazers started off 7-0 against the spread last year. They weren't putting out, different metrics on that. And the Lakers started off 0-6. You'd think that would have been a newsworthy article. Hey, Lakers are 0-6 against the spread. They didn't put that out. But they went ahead and made a point of saying how after winning their first game, the Bucks have yet to cover a spread. And this was only a couple nights ago. Again, it was when I think they were 1-8 at the time. So it was only the game before their last that ESPN made this statistic. And I think it might be some kind of Jedi mind trick. I really do. I think people might see that and just say, okay, well, they're due to cover soon. Something like that. Again, it's the logic I use, but of course mine isn't just chasing teams that are due. It's looking at the big picture of all the teams. But I think the Bucks might be an outlier. I think they might lose a couple more against the spread before they finally get it right. So it's not the fact that ESPN put out the article. That's why I'm not just immediately taking the Bucks to cover. But the reason I like it is because 4.5 makes no sense to me. The Raptors have looked good. They have not looked amazing. The Bucks are the Bucks. So I'm liking the Raptors, and I'm actually taking them on the money line. I like them to win. Magic Bulls, I'll take Chicago. Magic are good against the spread. Bulls, not so much. I think more people will be on the Magic. The Bulls have just been very blah this year. And in my rankings video, again, I don't have the Bulls making the playoffs. I don't think they're going to do anything. I think they're going to fall off, trade DeRozan, and possibly be one of the worst teams this year. But again, they're still going to get some wins, and I like this matchup. It's not one I love, but I do like it. Now this one, Timberwolves Suns. I think Gobert, after that devastating, beatdown he took from Draymond Green, is definitely not going to be up to playing the Suns here. And I'm actually wondering if they're going to push that ridiculous narrative. Like, obviously I was being facetious, but I do wonder if they're going to push something like, oh man, the T-Wolves expended a lot of energy. Something like that, because this 5.5 makes no sense to me. The T-Wolves just beat the Warriors in back-to-back games. They had Steph in one of them. And the T-Wolves have been pounding everybody all year. The Suns have been ridiculously inconsistent. To me, now I get there is ejections, so you might have players not playing. So there's no injuries. But it doesn't look like, from what I can see, there's no news on any immediate suspensions. Of course, again, they love using these types of things to sway the public and throw things off. So we might see suddenly Gobert's not playing, this guy's not playing. But either way, I think the public's still looking at this, seeing the T-Wolves as a strong team, seeing the Suns as very, very weak if their main guys aren't all, at least two of the three aren't on fire. So, yeah, I don't see too many people taking the cover. I like the cover. Kings Lakers. This is a narrative one. It was another article ESPN put out, and this one was more just matter of fact. It was like they weren't trying to really push a narrative. They just basically said Lakers longest home game winning streak in a while to start a season. They're undefeated at home this year, and I like them to cover. I like them to win. Obviously, I'll take the cover because of that reason. I think they're going to keep that up for a little bit, establish the Lakers as really good in the Staples Center. They just started it. Again, they just put it out. So usually when they do stuff like that, it'll continue for a little bit. As we're seeing in the NFL, we're seeing a ton of streaks this year. So I think the Lakers will continue their streak here, and I have them with the cover. And again, typically not always, you'll get with the ESPNs, you'll get an underdog and a favorite, or you'll get an away and a home. So I got an away team covering and a home team covering, hoping we get the right split. I think we will. And finally, Cleveland Blazers, probably my favorite matchup. And I went into this before. I don't have Cleveland. This was probably one of my hotter takes. I don't have them in the playoffs. I have them maybe making the play-in. I know it sounds pretty insane. I like the Hornets. There's some other teams I like besides the Cavs, but I do have them covering this because in Portland, again, 10.5 makes no sense. Portland got, I think it was, of their 3 wins, 2 were nice upsets where they beat decent teams. And even still, again, 10.5 is what I would expect if you have a team like Philly, or even if it was like the Knicks at home against the Blazers. I could see 10.5. I don't see 10.5 Cavs, or even many teams at all that aren't established teams with a winning record doing well in Portland, laying more than 10 points. I think the public's going to love the 5-1 possibility for Portland to win outright, and they're going to love the 10.5, maybe even tease it to 17.5. I think we're going to see a complete prison pounding, so I like the Cavs to cover this spread as well. Now, there's one other play I like. I always like to go into our exact units and increments. Like I said, the ones I'm not loving, Bulls to cover the Magic 1 point and the Hawks to win, I made them for 1 unit. They're level leg 1s. Now, we have a good bit of leg 2s today and leg 3s because we went 3 of 9 yesterday. So we had like 3 leg 2s lose, we had 2 leg, I think we had 2 or 3 leg 2s lose, and we had a couple leg 1s lose. So they obviously move up. So for the Pacers under, which I picked and did not come through, that's where I'm plugging in the Raptors to win. It would be nice to get a plus 160 on a leg 2. For the Warriors that did not win, I'm taking the Wizards to win straight up. Again, I don't know if, I did cover that one. Okay. I was going to say, I don't know if I went over that one, but I did. But yeah, I think the Wizards, I think they'll get it going. I really do. Again, the play-in teams don't need to do much at all. They really don't. So I think that Magic, again, doing pretty good against the spread. So could be a win, no cover, but I'll take the 2-1. And it would be nice as a leg 2. I do think JP is going to get going a couple games this year, and I think the Wizards are going to finish better than they look right now. Celtics, again, I like the Celtics. Sixers really good against the spread. Don't see that continuing. So that's going to be my leg 2 of the Spurs Thunder. We're so close to taking the Thunder because I thought it was a fishy line, but then I thought Chet versus Wemby wound up being a dud. Maybe people were going to pound the props on those two. That's what I'm guessing what happened. But either way, it was only for 1 unit. So the Sixers cover, or the Celtics cover, Sixers will be a leg 2 there. And here are our leg 3s. As I said, Suns-Wolves makes no sense to me. The Wolves just won twice in a row in Golden State. So I think they're going to push, they just played a rivalry game twice in a row. Things got chippy. They're tired. They're on a road trip. All these different reasons. And that's why the Suns are going to win decisively, in my opinion. And I got the Lakers covering the Kings here. That's just a leg two. But like I said, I think it doesn't make much sense. Not that it doesn't make much sense, but I just don't think they're going to start the Lakers undefeated at home narrative. Because I think the Lakers are going to get a good bit of losses still early this year. I don't think they're going to run away with anything. I think they might even have like a 3-4 game losing streak. But I think they're going to really try and push them as a great team at home. And they do that with every team, really. But it just seems like I've seen a couple different articles now. I saw the one about the streak, and then they did another one. They're showing the team's home courts, and that it was for the tournament. But for the Lakers, they wrote like a caption like, you know, like who can win here or something to that effect. So I just thought it was weird. So I like the Lakers, and I got the Cavs again covering Blazers. So we got 3 leg threes. These are the first 2. So obviously we just want to split them or better since we're playing 3 of them. Obviously we want to hit 2 of the 3. The reason you haven't seen the third one yet is because it's not an NBA play. It's a college basketball play, which again I can't name the mascots. I can't. Well, I know it's the Scarlet Knights, but I can't name a player on each team. And I'm not bragging. I mean, we might lose this, but Rutgers hasn't gone over all year. Georgetown is 1-1, but Rutgers is 0-3 on the over. We're 4-1. I've done 5 college picks. They're on my membership site, but I again early into the season. But we hit about 65, at least 65% last year, not watching the sport at all. I know less about this sport than any other sport, and it's just looking at the metrics. So we're doing good, decent to start the year. And the only one I officially put out on a video was I went over it in my last video. I said just some free alpha. I don't see Creighton covering. I think Iowa will cover them, simply because Creighton was like 3-0 on the cover. Iowa was like 1-2. Again, you're just not going to have handfuls of teams going into the second, third week undefeated or winless against the spread. So, you know, nothing crazy, but if anyone tailed me on that one, that was in my last NBA video. And again, it's only a few picks, but I'm still going to play the high metric plays, so it might not be a fun game, but I do like that over-under for Rutgers and Georgetown, just because of their, you know, so far abysmal record on the over. So that's why I made that a leg 3 for 4 units. Again, I'll start doing college basketball and videos. It's really just a matter of obviously having time, and with all the sports going on, it's especially like once the weekend comes around, I want to make sure I get all the football out, do some recaps, and then cover all the games. And then we got the tournament, which seems like it's a completely different league. It's like we traveled back to the 90s, and I went in, again, this isn't to like brag, it's just I think it means we're over the target. I had gone into it, I said I think we're going to start seeing some lower scoring games, and not that we had a bunch of them, but we had some, and more importantly, no calls, a lot of no calls, and it's going to get physical and chippy, and we're going to see a fight, maybe an ejection. I think those were my exact words. And I guess that was an understatement, because I didn't realize they were going to go full WrestleMania on us, but they did. So I think it's only going to get crazier. You know, you imagine like Mitch Robinson and Dre getting into it or something like that. It's definitely they're going to up the script. I think this is just the beginning of it. Or you imagine when they're actually in the tournament stages where they're playing for elimination, something like that. We're going to start seeing some interesting things. But yeah, for not a ton of crazy upsets, but I do like the Raptors because of the line, you know, the suspicious line, as I do the Wizards. I think both of those lines just don't make sense. And for the covers, yeah, the big covers, love the Cavs here, and I do like the Suns, because I think it makes no sense with the Timberwolves. But yeah, I'm curious what you guys thought of the scuffle. You know, I just saw the highlights, but it was just kind of ridiculous how, again, it wasn't even like there was anything leading up to it. In wrestling, there's a thing called selling. So a guy will slap a guy in the face, and understandably the guy that got slapped in the face will be a little upset, so we'll slap him back. And usually before he gets slapped in the face is because he insults the other guy, you know, whether he makes fun of his hair or he just calls him a human piece of shit. Whatever the reason is, there's a warrant for the action, in the NBA, they've done this before. They'll just be like a hard foul or, a guy's jersey got grabbed, and we see these plays every single game. But then just randomly one game they decide, you know what, I'm gonna strangle this guy because he did this. So to me, the whole thing is, especially because it just happens to fall during this separate tournament, which again I think they're doing to establish more of. It's going to be, in my opinion, and the Wolves winning kind of makes me think I might be right. It's going to be a team like that, a team like the Pacers, a more unified team. So these guys win in their $500,000, which to us is a lot of money, but to even a low-played NBA player is not. It'll be like a nice little heartwarming story. I don't think people care to see Giannis and Dame get an extra 500,000, but if the Pacers do, or if a team does against the Warriors, a lot of people hate on the Warriors. It's almost like 50-50 booking. So then if a team like the Lakers or Warriors or one of these, obviously we're not going to have a team like the Pacers win the championship. You give a team like that the play-in, or not the play-in, the in-season tournament, and I think it makes sense. So I'll be looking into how the games differ from in-season tournament to the actual games. Again, I think it's a stupid concept, but we'll see what happens. And yeah, I'm liking the Rutgers play. It's my favorite one just because, again, I just roll with the numbers, and we've done incredibly well last year with college basketball. I think it's the fact that I don't know anything, so there's no bias. Not even bias, that's a bad word. There's no recency bias, is what I should say. There's no narrative bias. There's no line that I might be overthinking. It's literally just this team sucks against the spread. Because, for example, Bucks Raptors, this one might backfire. Normally 9 times out of 10 I'm taking the Bucks to cover because of the metrics, but I'm also now factoring in ESPN's little subliminal article. So it might help us, it might burn us, but I think the reason we do so consistently well with college basketball is because there's never sometimes if a line looks kind of suspicious, of course, I'm going to say, okay, why is this unranked team a 2-point favorite against this 9th ranked team? It's never that bad, but sometimes it's pretty close. But just playing the metrics and playing the spreads has been by far our bread and butter. So that's why I like college basketball. Again, the reason I just drop them on my Discord and my Buy Me a Coffee is because most people want to see NBA. When I would do college basketball before, the people that were tailing my picks and betting on them were really the only people that were interested. So I can go into it. Obviously, people might not be too interested if Rutgers does bad and doesn't go over for us, them in Georgetown. But again, I just think that sticking to the metrics is the way to go. So, yeah, decent start to the college year, and I think I think we'll have over a 60% hit rate. I don't know if we'll do 65, 70 again, but I think we'll be over 60% for sure. Just because we had a large enough sample last year. It wasn't like it was 12 games. We did hundreds of college basketball games every day, playing teams like St. Peter's and Merrimack, teams I've never even heard of, just because the metrics. So, yeah, we have, looks like 9 total plays tomorrow, and we have a lot of units in play. So, obviously, 2 out of 3 on the leg threes would be phenomenal. I would love the hat trick, but we'll have to see what happens. And getting, splitting our money line dogs would be really nice. If we got the Raptors or the Wizards, we're probably looking at a pretty good day. Combine it with if we do pretty good on our leg threes. And we got a good bit of leg twos for 2 units in play, as I showed in my Discord. I just wanted to show the exact unit amounts so anyone tailing can do that too. So take care and happy earnings.